Okay, hi there boys and girls, and welcome back to the channel. Got some more premium tank reviews for you, and we're starting off with the Tiger 131 at tier 6. And for those of you who don't know, the Tiger 131 was a real tank. It was captured by the British Army during World War II in the North Africa campaign, was brought back to England, and has been at the Tank Museum down on the south coast in Bovington for a number of years, has been fully restored, and is now the world's only operational existing Tiger tank. You can actually see this thing in action driving around on certain event days down at the Tank Museum in Bovington. So it is a little piece of history, bit of nostalgia, which Wargaming have recreated into the game. So for that reason alone, I wanted to own the tank. Is it a good tank? Well, if you're expecting to have a completely OP Tiger 1 fighting around at tier 6, then that's not what it is at all. It does have some similar properties. It does have a relatively good fast firing gun. It does have reasonable armor if it's loaded, if it's angled, sorry. And it's a bit sluggish. Even with the power pack running, it's quite slow. The reason I've included this particular game is it's a good example of side scraping, and we talk about side scraping a lot. I know I do have some relatively new players who sometimes watch the videos, and this is basically, when you hear us guys going on about side scraping, this is what we mean. It's the angle that I'm at here. Effectively, I'm at an angle where in between my shots I drive forwards and backwards, keeping my tank at this angle to maximise the chance of my armour getting a bounce. And as you can see, once I've got this position, just take a bounce there, I'm just going to keep rolling backwards and forwards. What you don't want to be doing is being sideways, coming out sideways, firing and coming back. That is basically what other people do who get farmed up within the first 60 seconds of the game. So when we talk about side scraping, this is exactly what we're talking about. And even if you're not coming off a building, maintaining this kind of angle when you're in a brawl with a tank, always a good idea. Just always look to be trying to keeping your tank angled towards your enemy, something like this, and you'll give yourself a good chance of bouncing the shot. What our fella over there is doing is exactly the wrong thing. He's coming out sideways, which is why it's not particularly difficult for me to keep sticking damage into him. And this is pretty much what I do for most of this game, in fact. And this is basically what we talk about when we talk about side scraping. As a general rule of thumb, if you're angling off to the right, then your gun barrel should be over your right front drive wheel. That's the kind of angle you want. If you're going to the left, a bit like I am now, then it should be over your left drive wheel. That's the kind of angle you want to maintain when we talk about side scraping. And as you can see, that worked out pretty effectively there. The enemy team weren't that disciplined. As a consequence, they've been cleared out. That's allowed me to push forward now, stick in the damage, and we're going to take a pretty easy win here. As for Tiger 131, if you see it available in the store, should you get it? If you like a bit of history and nostalgia, certainly. It's certainly not a bad tank. At tier 6 you can get the Kuro Mini Mine, which is a slightly better version of this tank. It doesn't come into the store very often. So really, I mean, make your choice from that. I personally enjoyed owning it purely and simply for the nostalgia value of owning the tank, and I have to say it's not a bad little tank. I wouldn't go out of my way to buy it, but I'm glad I own it. Okay, next up we have the Blaze, which is at tier 7, Tank Destroyer, which was a recent event tank. Yeah, very good turn of speed, very good gun, quite a long reload, about 13 seconds I think. And as you'd expect, virtually no armor. Now, this game's quite interesting because it shows another aspect of gameplay that a lot of people sometimes don't look at. Now, we've come over here. I want to help these lights and meds push this flank so I can start sniping across the map. However, what becomes very apparent very quickly is that the entirety of the red team has pushed this side. rather than fighting on the heavy flank. And this is why watching the mini-map is important. As you can see, we're starting to get spots on here, and most of the red team is here, and I have to say the green team are pretty useless for the most part in this battle, and they take forever to push the one tank that's remaining over there on the flank. So what becomes very apparent very quickly is that this flank is going to fold. There's no way that we're going to be able to hold them on this flank. Now this is when you have to make the decision where you do your best to hold for as long as possible to give your guys over there a chance to actually realise this is a fighting game and they might want to get in the fight, or you simply use the speed of your tank if you have it and relocate. And that's exactly what I'm going to do here. There's no point in pushing a bad position. It's unusual for everybody to come to that flank on this map, but they did, so I'm going to use the speed here to relocate and keep my gun in the game for as long as possible. The green team have finally started to push on the other flank. It's taken them a long time to clear out that one tank. I think there's about 5 of them up there, 4 or 5 of them, and yeah, they're taking their sweet time doing it. And if that's the case, then use the speed. Relocate to another flank. Don't push a bad position. Sometimes you have to suck it up, especially if you're in a heavy tank that's slow, and just do your best to absorb damage and hold for as long as you possibly can until the rest of your team hopefully push through. If you do have the opportunity to relocate from a bad position, relocate. You will probably get called a coward in the chat. I don't see how you can be cowardly when you're playing with a cartoon tank, personally, but fine. If other people want to play the game badly and YOLO forward, that's their problem. There's no reason for you to do exactly the same. Now we've got a bit more control over this game. Our greens over there are still being incredibly passive and not prepared to come across here. So I've decided to come across, and if nothing else, I just want to turn these guns. I want these guns looking at me so that hopefully my guys across the valley there will actually get themselves in order and start to come across and push his position. And that's what I've achieved. Nashorn over there, he can't wait to get another shot at me, so his gun is not pointing at the rest of my team. So I'm going to let him keep pointing his gun at me. He's absolutely dying to get a shot at me. He's a one shot now, so I'm going to poke out, let him have a shot at me and get him finished. And then that's just going to leave the last tank. So we clear this guy up. And now I'm thinking, right, I'm just going to go forward, stick as much damage as I possibly can into this last remaining tank, and then hopefully the rest of my guys are going to get with the program, get across here and actually see if they can take the win. You never know, there's only 3 of them left. They might be able to manage it if they all work together a little bit, and eventually they do come across and they get this guy cleared. But it's a good example of potentially just thinking about it. Just because you've driven one flank doesn't necessarily mean you have to stay there and fight it out no matter what. If you've got the ability to relocate from a bad position, relocate. At the end of the day, you help your team out more by keeping your gun in the game. As for the Blaze, I wouldn't go out of my way to buy it if it came on offer. I know some people will do very well with this tank. It's nice to have that kind of speed in a TD, and it certainly does have a good gun and does allow you to get around the battlefield. So I quite enjoy driving it. I wouldn't go out of my way to buy it. And now we have the T23E3. This is an unusual tank. I knew virtually nothing about this tank. It was very, very cheap on offer in the store, so I picked it up. Tier 7, US tank. And this thing, best way to describe this thing is it's a Comet. It's very, very similar to the Comet at tier 7. It's fast, it's got a very, very fast reloading gun, about 3.5 seconds. It doesn't quite have the armour of the Comet, and I think the gun depression is not quite as good. But the one thing this thing is a DPM monster. This allows you to isolate an enemy tank and basically just out DPM them to death. There's very little at this tier apart from a Comet that's going to be able to live with the level of DPM you can pour in, as these two poor guys are about to find out. The other thing that's interesting is if you look on Blitz stars, this tank has actually one of the highest win rates in the game, which I was also unaware of. It wasn't really a tank I'd heard of. But it has one of the highest win rates in the game. Plus you have the earning potential because it's a premium tank. If I had the choice, would I drive this or a Comet? I'd drive a Comet. But as a premium tank to potentially earn with, this is a good tank. And as you can see, I mean, this poor guy here, he's got no chance. Every 3.5 seconds I'm slamming another shell into him, keeping him tracked, and there's just no way in hell he's going to be able to live with this. So we quickly get this guy cleared up. I know that we've still got the light tank over here, and we're about to give him an infinitely horrible 30 seconds, which is all he's going to survive for the rest of this game. And you can, I mean, you don't have the armor, so don't start, thinking you can get mixed in with everybody and just out DPM them. You won't. But this is a great tank, and it has the speed that if you see isolated targets, TDs, heavies, get behind them and start sticking this gun to good use. There really isn't a lot apart from the Comet at this tier that can live with this level of DPM. It really is a bit of a DPM monster, and also has a good turn of speed. As you can see, we cleared out this flank. The green team have done a good job on the other flank, so we've got a definite win on the cards here. This is all about damage. And we're going to come around here, and I think we're going to get the back end of a TOG, which who doesn't like to see that, especially with a gun like this. So we're just going to keep whacking the shells in until this poor fella is out of the game, and we take a pretty easy win there. So if you see this tank on offer, boys and girls, in the store, and it's not too expensive, I would recommend that you buy this tank. It is a lot of fun to play, and with that level of DPM, yeah, can be used very, very effectively. Anyway, thank you very much for watching the videos and supporting the channel, and as always, good hunting and bye for now.